All right, game 2, Stanford leaving the farm. The Cardinal 2-6. They are at 4-4 NC State Saturday, a noon kick in Raleigh. The Wolfpack a 9-point favorite at home. This game will air DG on ACC Network.
Yeah, before I get to the game, I'd like to encourage our viewers, listeners, readers to check out our one-on-one interview this week, very recently posted, with Wolfpack head coach Dave Doran. Just a day or so ago, I believe it came out. We got into everything, Chris, and Coach Doran is kind to let me pick his brain way beyond football. We got into the 2024 election day thoughts and observations. We got into his overall assessment of his full 12-year tenure and its ups and downs in Raleigh. We got into his reaction as a football coach in his mid-50s to the surprise recent retirement of UVA basketball coach Tony Bennett, who's in his mid-50s. We got into how Coach Doran and his wife Sarah have rallied around their son Jacob and contributed massive amounts of time and money to issues related to autism and other cognitive differences. We got into how he and his family, Coach Doran, have had to deal with some abusive feedback on social media and otherwise, including personal attacks, sometimes even from members of Wolfpack Nation. We've got into how he's managed a 7-4 record in the Wolfpack's head-to-head and very intense rivalry against the North Carolina Tar Heels. We got into the recent retirement of Wolfpack QB Grayson McCall, the rise of the true freshman QB CJ Bailey over the last couple of weeks, and even into Coach Doran's reflections on one of his former players and one of the best in NC State football history, linebacker Peyton Wilson, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL, of course, who is actually going to be inducted into the Ring of Honor at Carter Finley Stadium on Saturday afternoon, which brings us to the game itself. It is pretty simple in my eyes. Stanford is the worst football team in the Atlantic Coast Conference right now. The Cardinal is last in scoring defense, giving up more than 31 points per game. They're next to last in scoring offense at only 19 points per game. Some of the Wolfpack statistical numbers are not all that pretty either, but that is mostly because of those blowout losses to Clemson and Tennessee earlier this season. Those two opponents, of course, have been ranked in or near the national top 10 for most of this year, and Stanford will offer nothing of the sort. Of the Pac's 4 remaining games, which also includes Duke next week, then an open week, then road trips to Georgia Tech and UNC, this Stanford matchup is by far the simplest. The Cardinals' defense is not bad against the run, but they have given up huge chunks to opposing quarterbacks all season long. So it is going to be up to that true freshman, CJ Bailey, to build on what I thought were by far the 2 best games of his very young career against Syracuse and California. In those 2 games, he completed about 70% of his passes. He threw for roughly 300 yards per game in those matchups. Those are impressive numbers. And, of course, Bailey has plenty of high-quality weapons around him. Wideouts Casey Concepcion, the Ohio State transfer Noah Rogers, the Wake Forest transfer Wesley Grimes, and plus the UConn transfer at tight end Justin Jolie, who I think is one of the best at that position in the entire ACC. Those guys do not have huge receiving numbers so far this season, in part because of the QB turmoil at NC State, but I think that trend will take a big step in a positive direction against Stanford on Saturday afternoon.